Hey everybody, welcome to Teach Disability Kids Off. I'm so excited that you all could join us. Today we're going to hear from a couple of great speakers, and then we're going to watch the movie Life Worth Living, and then we're going to do a brief reflection at the end of it. So to get us started, to tell us a little more about disability, kids and adults in schools, I would like to turn it over to Matthew. So Matthew, everybody give it up.
So thank you all for being here. I'm proud to announce that with the support of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, thanks to their support, the curriculum, The Great Fight for Disability Rights, is now available for teachers to use and disseminate to their students. It's great. It's a very important accomplishment, and now the task that we have to do is let teachers know that it's available. To speak a little more about that, I'd like to introduce the former commissioner of the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, Charlie Carr, in addition to the filmmakers of The Great Fight for Disability Rights, Allison Gilkey and Eric Nudell. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm going to turn around so I can see everybody. I want to ask Eric and Allison to join me. Let me know if I run it. I always see the interpreter, so you'll jump out of the way when you see me. Who's interpreting today? Step out of role. Who are you?
Hello. Hi.
What's your name?
Hi, I'm Eliza.
Eliza. So, first of all, thank you so much to Easterseals for all the work that Easterseals does. Desi, Joe, Matthew, all the folks, all of you. It takes a lot of work to show up and organize, right? And that's what this is all about, is organize. And today, we're going to celebrate a victory. It's always nice when you're organizing to have a victory, keep you going, right? I mean, Linda, you know, you crawled up the Capitol steps. For what?
For what? For victory, for getting a law passed to establish our civil rights.
And what law is that?
The Americans with Disabilities Act.
Correct. You hear that? Linda crawled up the Capitol stairs, and you will see her butt today.
And a side view, too.
Very nice side view. Crawling up the stairs of our nation's capital. Why? Because she was fighting for our civil rights, the Americans with Disabilities Act. And what happened?
It passed.
It passed. Sometimes you have to act out to get what's coming to you. So, the reason behind Lives Worth Living and the Great Fight for Disability Rights is very singular in its purpose. And that is to serve as a documentary that shows how the disability community has come so far in a relatively short period of time. And Eric and Allison documented this struggle over a 30-year period, starting in the Second World War.
Yeah, really, it was from World War II and on.
Yeah. They documented it, and you're going to see it today. Hold your hand up or make some movement or something. You've seen Lives Worth Living already. Whoa! Well, you're going to see it again. Makes me happy too. Makes me cry every time I see it.
Yeah.
Does it make you cry when you see it?
Yeah.
Very inspirational.
It's really emotional because I think really
Very. I always cry.
I think it almost made me cry the first time I watched it.
Especially when Judy Heumann is in front of all these bureaucrats, and she starts to sort of break down a little bit, and she says, please don't nod your head like you know what I'm talking about, because you really don't. And I'd appreciate it if you'd stop. I mean, imagine the guts that took to do that.
Yes, yes.
So, I want Eric and Allison to talk about Lives Worth Living and how they had a vision and what they did together to make this documentary a reality. And listen, who's heard the expression, if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it?
Yes.
Anyone ever heard that?
I have.
I
Yeah.
have heard that before.
So today, what I'd like you all to think about is paying attention to the history. Where we were 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and where we are today. And what it took to get where we are. But listen, here's the rub. You guys are the torchbearers for the future. I'm depending on you as an old warrior to carry the torch for all the gains we've made. Because I'll tell you, we're not equal. You feel equal?
No.
No.
I do
We
not.
have to fight for equality, right? So you
Yes.
guys are the ones that are gonna fight. So I'm gonna ask Eric and Allison to come up now. And I want them to talk to you a little bit about why they made Lives Worth Living and what was their purpose. Okay, do it.
Well, Allison and I made this film together, and Lives Worth Living. But the great fight for disability rights, we made because of Charlie. It was Charlie's idea, and Charlie was our advisor, and he made this happen. I'm not just saying that idly. If it weren't for his leadership, incredible bravery to do this, it wouldn't have happened. And the great thing about it is Commissioner Carr, I just want to call him Charlie, but Commissioner Carr has a really important legacy. I cannot tell you how happy we are that this, I mean really happy that this has happened, because we have worked to get this information to people so that other people would know what people with disabilities had achieved in terms of civil rights. This is one of the greatest civil rights movements in human history on this planet. What they achieved is amazing. What you achieved is amazing, and you too.
Especially Charlie.
Just one last note from me is that this started in 2007. The reason we made this film is we met Fred Fay, who is a person I talk about every time we talk, because he was the most unusual man I had ever met, and have ever met in my life.
He was my mentor, one of my two mentors.
The greatest thing about Fred was he didn't see blind people or deaf people or people in wheelchairs or people with autism or anything like that. He didn't see, what he saw was people. And he had that kind of mind that he could just see people as people. And when you see people as people, you see people as equals. And that was key to, that was the reason we made this film, is we wanted to get that across, that humanity should not be creating layers where some people are down and some people are on high, because it's just not true. That's not the way the universe works. It's just not reality.
Well, I think Eric has pretty much said it all. But one point that, in fact, Linda pointed out earlier when we were talking is that the younger generations have no idea what life was like before the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act or the Architectural Barriers Act. The list goes on and on. So to get the Great Fight accepted into the civil rights curriculum in Massachusetts really is extraordinary, because now young people with and without disabilities can learn about this truly life-changing history. So thank you to everybody that has worked for years with the Department of Education to get this into the curriculum. And the state of Massachusetts is the first state to actually include this. So pioneering. Like Charlie and Linda, you know, this is for you guys, and thank you for all your help.
Well, there you go. Fred Fay was the inspiration behind Lives Worth Living. And he, as I said, was one of my mentors, a quiet giant who lived at least a third of his life in bed, right? He couldn't get out of bed. But he operated. It was Fred Central. He had a room set up and a computer system and all this stuff you see in the film. But thank you to YLN. The letters that you wrote to the commissioner made a difference. The curriculum is now live. Educators can use it in classrooms, and that's why #TeachDisability is critical. We need you now to take the next step, and that is to push through social media and also personal testimony. For instance, go before a school committee, or talk to your teacher or principal. Tell them about this is available. You got to use it in the class, because that's the only way it's going to happen. They're not going to do it because, oh, it's a great idea. They're going to do it because we have to push them to do it. So keep that social media campaign going. Thank you for the letters, all the work you've done. Thank you to Easterseals. Thank you to Eric and Allison. Have a great time. Soak this movie in another time and draw strength from it. Thank you all.
I strongly believe disability history should be taught in schools. This is a very important topic that people need to learn more about and increase their awareness of. People with disabilities really are the same kind of people as everyone else. They just have attributes that make us different. I had a traumatic brain injury when I was 10, so I had to relearn how to do everything. I believe that once people understand more about this complete disability history, that they will be more accepting of these types of people. If this was taught in schools, then people could also combine ideas and think of additional ways of helping them if they came across someone with a disability as well. Students may start class having one opinion about people with disabilities, but after learning more about this topic, they would leave the school wide-eyed with the new perspectives they gained. Last spring, I did my semester project for a course on the disability rights movement. as part of this, I had to watch Life's Worth Living, which was about the movement. So that's why I did my project on it. After viewing this film the first time, I learned more things that I could never have even imagined that happened to the disabled community. That is another reason, because people should understand how people with disabilities really were treated in the past. Once they understand this more, it will give students a new perspective on how to act or treat someone with a disability when they come across them. For me, having my disability since 2003, I'm not very surprised when I get left out of some activity. However, if students understood more about what people with disabilities go through back then, and even still now, then they may be able to make more adjustments to the game or event so that all people can join in. When students know disability history, they can change other people's lives by standing up for them, feel proud that they helped to contribute to the difference that was made, and therefore be part of the disability movement themselves.
Okay.
And I'm a part of this committee, like a bunch of other people in this room, to get this a part of the curriculum in schools. So, again, you may ask yourself the question of why teaching disability history is so important. And I wasn't born in the 1990s when George H.W. Bush signed the ADA. And as a young adult, I had no knowledge about disability history or the independent living movements. In fact, growing up, I was never connected to young people with disabilities. All I knew is I had bad balance, couldn't walk fast, and always last in line. There is a tendency for the general public to ignore people with disabilities. Therefore, it is time for people to become educated and understand more about how people with disabilities are defined by their experiences. Just as lessons about the Holocaust were aimed at reducing religious discrimination, lessons about slavery were aimed at reducing racial discrimination. I believe that teaching individuals how people with disabilities were treated, how restricted their access was during certain periods of history, or that many historical figures were disabled, just might reduce disability discrimination or maybe disability hate crimes in the future. 20% of our population has some form of a disability. By helping us promote this campaign, #TeachDisabilityHistory, we can educate others. This can only have a positive impact within disability communities and the movement as a whole. If we can lower negative stigma towards people with disabilities and the importance of this part of history, our mission will be successful. Please join us in our campaign to push school districts to make disability history a mandatory part of this curriculum. Thank you.